I'm sorry.
Hello.
It's the intro music. It's a bop, Jerry. I'm telling you, it's a bop.
Welcome to another episode of MashUp TV.
Yeah,
And y'all caught.
Jerry.
We are dancing into the week, as you can see. Brian's got his joy, his praise dance on.
We're gonna. My theme. One of my themes for this year is just twerking into freedom.
Yes, twerked into freedom. Yes.
Into freedom. Yeah. So that's what I'm gonna do. That's how I'm gonna make it through these next 4 years, Jerry. Twerk into freedom. Okay.
Look, we gotta like figure out a way to like keep our joy and to keep our like sanity because the world is crazy. The world is crazy.
My God, my God. Well, listen.
Yeah,
Happy Monday. Well, Jerry, we had a great weekend this weekend. You
we
want to
did have a great
talk about the
weekend.
weekend for just a few moments, okay?
Yes, we had a beautiful weekend. It was so this weekend we went on a retreat with Brothers United and Young Brothers United. It was a good time. So like they've been doing this retreat for how long? I think like about
16, 17 years.
something like that. Yeah. And we like got to join the retreat and did a presentation with the Holiness Project and with the All of Us Research Project. And it was really beautiful. It was good just to be in fellowship with other same gender loving gay black men, same gender loving gay. That's like two same of the same thing. But but it was beautiful just to be in that space and to be able to share with people and take time. I met some new friends, so it was really good. It was really good. How did you enjoy it?
You know what? I will tell you that I wasn't sure how the experience would be having to drive in the middle of nowhere in Tennessee and passing Trump and Vance signs all the way till I got parked my car to check in, and so it was very unsettling at first. But when I saw everyone and when we had on our shirts that we wore with all our names on it, I saw it a little differently. Like it was really a powerful statement for all of us
Yeah.
and to be in this space where most of the people probably voted against our own interests, but we paid to be here, and we are learning. We are still growing. We are fellowshipping, and when I saw the young people playing on the basketball court, and I heard Nicki Minaj playing on the basketball court with some of the youth over there, I said, okay, we okay, we all right. So we'll make it.
Yes, yes. I didn't even notice that they were playing it. But here's the thing though. Like I feel like, whether people are like gay, straight, white, like I mean, like white people enjoy black culture. Like they enjoy queer culture. Like straight people enjoy queer culture. They may not like recognize it as such, but like they definitely, they get down to our stuff, whether they realize it or not.
Maybe that's a whole nother topic. We'll have to revisit that topic because I can dive into that. But at the end of the day, it was just a great weekend. It was so many different generations of
Yes,
people there, so we gained a lot of wisdom, learned from each other. Just beautiful, beautiful space. So
it
yeah,
was. It was.
what would you want to talk about? We got any church announcements, or were you ready to get into this convo?
Well, we have a couple of announcements. We
We
do
sure
have a couple of
do.
announcements. We have some things, some exciting things that's happening. It seems like you just remembered.
We sure do. Can I just jump in real quick?
Yes.
On Tuesday, December the 3rd, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. We are hosting the fifth annual Reverend Edwin C. Sanders, World AIDS Day luncheon. If you don't know who Reverend Edwin Sanders is, you better look him up because he is a world-renowned HIV activist who started a movement here in the city of Nashville during the beginning of the HIV epidemic, and we are so grateful that he has entrusted us to continue his legacy through this luncheon. We're excited to be honoring some people that many of you may know. Someone who's worked in the field of HIV for 15 plus years, Mr. Earl Robert Taylor, that we're honored with the Service Award. And we're excited that we're going to be honoring Byron Bankhead, who is over at the Music City Prep, but has been doing the work of HIV for almost 7, 8 years, and so we are excited to be honoring some pioneers. And really, this is a space for us to be able to celebrate all of us who do this work throughout the year. So Tuesday, December 3rd, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. We'll be at the East Park Community Center. It's free registration, so if you go and click the link in our bio, or go to, I'm sorry, wad24.eventbrite.com, and go ahead and get your ticket. We're gonna have some good food. We got our good friend Kiki that's gonna be cooking up some a good luncheon. Okay.
Yes, Tiny Bites is going to be catering this time, and is owned by like one of our friends, Kiki Taylor.
Yeah,
Really excited because baby cooks down.
we about to eat.
So we always have good food, and this is going to be a beautiful event. So if you have time, you're able to get off of work. You want to come and have like some free lunch. Come in and have a good time with us. We're like this is something that we look do every year, and we're really excited about it. Reverend Sanders has done so many amazing things in the field of HIV and AIDS, and we take this time to honor everybody who works in this field because it's hard work. It's hard work. It's hard work. It's something that you definitely have to be called to do. So we're really excited to just give space. If you are a person who works in community advocacy, if you're a social worker, if you're anyone that works with people with HIV and AIDS, or if you work in PrEP navigation, please come and let us love on you a little bit
Yeah.
and just enjoy yourself. Yes. And then our other announcement, it is Melanin Magic Monday. So, really excited about our Melanin Magic feature this today. Our feature is uh,
Come on.
Dawn Cornelius. Yes,
Come on.
she is the founder of the Human app and the Cornelius Group Marketing Group. Dawn is amazing. She is a queer um, woman who is also serving on our Village Keepers. She has done so many things. She is also an ordained minister. If you did not know that, uh, look, Dawn is an amazing person. So I feel like I can say a whole lot about my friend. She's also an author. She's done several talks. Like if you are not familiar with Don Cornelius, go look her up. She has some really cool stuff happening. She's also an author, so go look her up, Don Cornelius, Dawan. And if you are looking for any like marketing services, her business, the Cornelius Group, great people go and work with. They do like marketing for like small to large businesses and do a lot of great work. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Shout out to Don. We appreciate you.
yes. Okay.
All right. Oh, one last one. One last one.
Okay.
We have released our announcement last week for MashUp in 2025. And
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say, if you want a good community weekend of events, from Friday to the karaoke competition, give me some throat, to the Saturday mashup family reunion, to our annual Giving Out Loud brunch, February the 21st through the 23rd, here in the city of Nashville. We are going to show up and show out. We have put information out there on our website. So if you go to mashupnation.org, you will see all the different opportunities to be a sponsor, to be engaged. So yes, please go ahead and uh, uh, if you know somebody who got some coins, go ahead and sponsor one of our events. Go ahead and put these dates on your calendar. We'll get more information out. Tickets will be released soon for different events, and so we can't wait to see you for the National Weekend 2025.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So go on the website. You can click here, become a sponsor. You can go and find out more about sponsorship opportunities. There's plenty of them. Starting at $15,000 and on down. But if you got the coin, baby, don't be shy.
Don't be
Uh,
right. Okay. Well, listen, I am ready to get into our topic today and go ahead and bring on our guest. But really, this amazing human being doesn't need an introduction. But if you have heard of Maxine Spencer, then you know you're in for a treat. Activist who has been doing work in our community for many years, from Vanderbilt's campus to other nonprofit organizations, working with youth and working with our trans communities and working with the black communities and just doing all kind of great empowerment work in our city. And speaking of the Giving Out Loud brunch, Maxine was one of the very first award recipients of our Giving Out Loud brunches. So let's just go on. And Maxine also serves as the village keeper of MashUp. Introducing Maxine Spencer.
Yeah.
Hi.
What's up?
Not much. How you doing?
I am doing good, ready to talk and get into the things. But listen, I tried to give a brief overview, but can you just tell the people who you are? Just share with us.
Okay, so again, Maxine. I'm originally from Memphis, so I love it right here in
Yes.
Nashville. But I gotta keep it real. Look, you don't get it twisted now. If you get into the arguments about who's better, I'm gonna side with my folks. Okay, so I'm gonna just let you know. And like you were saying, I've been doing stuff around like ever since I was a student over at Vanderbilt's campus. I founded Blackout, which is the first affinity group for Black, queer, and trans students on the campus. Then, even going from that, I worked at the Oasis Center doing the More Than Me program, being a program specialist there, working for queer and trans young people of color, working at Workers' Dignity, being the Black worker organizer. One of my most recent roles was also being as the trans health project specialist. And so there's a couple different points that I certainly want to talk about that for today. And then even from other kinds of roles in professional life, being one of the village keepers over here at MashUp, being on board with Black Pride. I was also on a community oversight board. And then when it was turned into community review board, there was only so many spots and I transitioned out of there. And I've really just been spending most of my time just trying to be out community, trying to figure out how I can support people. Also singing a little bit, I
Yeah.
do a little bit of that here and there. So,
The throat is blessed. The throat.
you can't expect to see me at the competition. You can't expect to see me there.
Maxine, can you talk real quick a little bit about the work that you do with Trans Aid Nashville?
Yes, and so I'm also one of the co-founding founding steering committee members of Trans Aid Nashville. So I'm a sister organization of MashUp, proud to say.
Yes.
And with Trans Aid Nashville, it's a small collective of trans Nashvillians that wanted to make sure that all the money and all the efforts that are going to support trans people are truly going to support trans folks. So we came together back in like late 22 because we also started seeing that, trans people were more so becoming a political pawn, a political chip. And people will start to, fundraise more and more off of trans people's sufferings. But where did all that money go? That wasn't going to trans people. So, we came together and decided we want that to go directly to trans people. And so for us as a mutual aid project, we are all about trying to figure out how we can use community resources to directly support our folks. And in so many instances, what people really need is that direct support. If it's not, helping someone find a mechanic, it's direct cash assistance, and sometimes we'll have folks that will come to us before they even come to the city, for example, because they can get treated the right way as a trans person. And also, in some cases, even though, again, we are all volunteer, no one's paid for anything, and we will treat people with a little bit more humanity sometimes. And it really kind of doesn't matter in what entirely your situation is going through. So there's people that, might just be a little bit short on something, might just need some connection to maybe a social or, physical health resource, which is fine. And then some people, they are way behind on rent. Eviction is kind of like coming up. And so we're just here to do our best to support people to remain in community with each other and to make sure that our folks have a pathway towards stability.
I love that.
I think that's beautiful.
I'm sorry. Jerry said, would you say, Jerry?
No, I'd say that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Like the work that you all are doing is so important. It's amazing. Maxine, I consider you my little sister. we're both from Memphis, and I am just proud of you all. I mean, I was proud of you even before your work at Trans 8 Nashville and starting that project. But really, what you all have done in such a short amount of time, and the people that you have helped is truly amazing, and it's very inspiring. And you're doing like some really great work that, and giving people like help that they probably would not get otherwise. So the fact that you're keeping people like in their houses and helping people stay fed and just living, is really like that's amazing. That's amazing. And I think even for like some of like the people who may be watching and be like, oh, okay, so y'all helping people pay rent. So like, can you like expound on some of the issues that trans people specifically like experience that make it hard for them to like deal with day-to-day expenses, or just kind of why like trans people are more at risk for having for experiencing these type of difficulties.
Well, I'd start first saying about how I'd kind of like for anyone that's listening in to think about how hard it was for them to get their first job.
Mm.
And to think about like all the steps it took for them to get that job, from having a mentor, going a resume, even if it's trying to learn how to be in the service industry. And think about how difficult that was for you. Just assuming my listener is a cis person. Think about how difficult that was for you. Now, think about being a trans person, thinking about how people are perceiving me all the way, how people will treat me differently, how people will say snide comments, how people will give me these weird looks, how managers may treat me because they don't understand or they refuse to understand me, and put all those sorts of things into every aspect of that experience, from even putting your resume together to application to interviewing toward working in a job itself. No matter what industry you are, that in itself is a very intense barrier for trans people. And it makes it so much harder for us to be able to live, to be able to afford all the things that we need to afford. Most of us, if I remember the statistics correctly, there's this University of Williamsburg, if I remember correctly, study, no, it's a UCLA study, that said that around like a third of trans people across the country were making around like $35,000, a third. And that's not really surprising. It's hard for us to get jobs. It's hard for us to find housing. You can legally be discriminated against because you're a trans person. And most recently, before the Boston Supreme Court case back in 2019, there was absolutely nothing in terms of job discrimination protections as well. But even then, now that's kind of a little bit up in the air, and it's always been up for being challenged. All the court cases that we've talked about for years now, even from Obergefell, sorry, all of those are kind of up for grabs, and everyone's a little nervous around those. So when you're talking about about things specifically for trans people, the entire process, the entire game is not set up for trans people to succeed. It's set up for us to fail, because it's set up for us to be further marginalized, to be seen as this weird kind of other that shouldn't be in the room in the first place.
That, thank you for putting that in perspective, because I mean, really, I think that we need to keep saying that over and over so people can really get a clear understanding of the true hardships that our trans community has to go through just to exist in this world, that they shouldn't even have to, we should be all living in this world. We don't have to have these challenges. And we talk about health equity. There's so many things that are not equitable about how we treat our trans community. And I'm wondering, how do we talk about, how do we get people to care? You know what I'm saying? And, I think that's why we really appreciate the work that you do, Maxine, because you not only educate, but you actually, put that into practice and are doing things to help, bring about an equitable outcome for our trans community. I want to ask you, considering, this is Transgender Awareness Week. And this is a week where we are to continue to learn. I hope that the learning happens even beyond this week. But given where we are right now and I just want to phrase this question because I don't think that, like, regardless of what administration we're in, uh,
Mhm.
there's still challenges. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like, whether we're in a Biden or whether we're in a Trump, the challenges are there and have been there. But what are you hearing that the trans community is feeling right now, kind of given the direction of the rebirth, if you would, I guess, of the Trump administration?
Everyone is extremely afraid. Everyone is just absolutely terrified, and for good reason. He's not. This is a president elect who has not been particularly kind to trans people from jump, and who has openly talked about now that he's heading back to the White House, but even before, to be fair, but especially now that he's heading back to the White House, about in particular how he wants to ban gender affirming care and he wants to make it much more difficult. And that first stepping point is really, really heavily targeted at young people. A lot of the fight for gender affirming care itself is being targeted at young people as part of this kind of moral scare and this moral panic. This kind of like, oh, well, the children are being harmed. When in reality, a lot of what we know about gender affirming care for young people is that it is safe. It's much better. If you let young people transition when they're younger, they tend to have better health outcomes when they're older because you let them be themselves. You let them understand themselves. For example, even I'm talking about puberty blockers. Puberty blockers are absolutely safe. They're absolutely fine. There's research behind that. It's this kind of moral panic that's been created around children that has kind of led that. And I think ultimately where people are most concerned in general is some sort of kind of like federal ban or restriction around gender affirming care writ large, because it's more acceptable to talk about the children because then it's the argument of like, oh, they're impressionable. So then, okay, well, then we limit it here. But if you just say that it's not, it's healthcare that is, well, not even that it is healthcare, but it's something that a practice that should be limited for young people, then the argument easily goes into, well, why do we allow it at all? And at that point, then it snowballs. And that's kind of where you get a little bit of the ultimate implications of the Scarmetti case. So the case for our attorney general versus the United States, which, and they're hearing those arguments next month. So there should be a decision by that in around June, July of next year. Because if the premise is that the law that would ban gender affirming care for minors does not violate the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, then what else can they do around gender affirming care? That kind of opens up so many doors, and it's really our young people that are being kind of sacrificed in this moment right now. And honestly, if you want to talk about how people are really, really feeling, it's even more intense because then, there's, for example, I've been seeing reports from the city in Odessa, Texas, that's putting out a bounty of $10,000 for trans people that are using the restroom. And things about laws and bathroom bans and bathroom laws similar to that is that, you have this gender policing, and gender policing does no one any good. Even though you might have a preconceived notion of what a trans person looks like, oftentimes it's just another cis person. And so then really, if you want to talk about safety, most of the times trans people aren't causing any violence. And most of the times, honestly, like, it's really an issue that doesn't really exist as in trans people causing this kind of harm. Mm-hmm. Like, it just doesn't exist. But when you have laws like that, for example, having other laws around, the restricting access towards changing gender markers, change on your ID or on your birth certificate, then it does create a kind of slippery slope of what's allowed and what's allowable, I guess, to be more precise, where, okay, if it's illegal to do this, then can you go to jail for having this done? And when you have even, for example, like over in Texas, again, I'll use them as another example, where you'll have DMVs that are considering, well, can we just not change this at all? So that you just aren't allowed to change it. And at that point, well, if you'll have municipalities, states go to that degree, well, at what point will they stop? And terrifying conclusion, because then some people are like, well, they'll just keep going until they arrest us en masse. And, for the people that are not in prison, then they're living kind of half lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even like they're trying to like the Salem witch people, or the Salem witch trials or something like they think like y'all some kind of foreign people that like come here with some demonic agenda or something. Like I don't understand why they paint y'all like this. It's crazy.
It is crazy, and that's exactly what it feels like. It feels like they're gearing up if like the laws keep progressing in the same way. Like we're gearing up to like just making like being trans illegal altogether. And which is really scary that people can like, especially with this bathroom bill and different things, where you may get arrested just by going to a bathroom, which really coordinates with the way that you represent to the world. That you could get arrested for that, if someone realizes that you're trans and you're using the bathroom, which is crazy.
And really, with all anti-trans legislation, there's an underlying component that really affects cis people, especially too. But like it's directed at us, but it affects everybody. Because, for example, and I think especially when it comes to women, so like more masculine presenting women, I've heard people that have been attacked in the bathroom because they're like, oh, they just assume so.
Yeah,
that they assume that like, oh, you dress a little bit differently, and so at that point, for all of us to start complying to that, everybody has to start undergoing some kind of loss of autonomy, and that I think is kind of the insidious thing that a lot of people don't realize within that too. Like how it affects all of us. It's directed at us, and we as trans community members will bear the brunt of it, but it will affect everyone. I think when you even talk about, HRT bans, think about restricting that kind of access towards healthcare. When that happened in Florida, back when I was working at the Trans Health Project, I interviewed a person who essentially went through menopause for like a year and a half because there was such a backlog of cases around getting the hormones that they needed around their own cancer treatment. They had to have some of their reproductive organs removed. But there was such a backlog that they couldn't get the specific care that they needed. And so they went through menopause for a year and a half. Literally went through that. Hot flashes the entire nine because they could not get that care. Had that law not been in place, they would have had a much easier time accessing that care. But because of a law like that, then they were just suffering.
Yeah, that's crazy. And it's, one of the things that, like you mentioned, is, how this affects like all people and like even cisgender people. Because we're starting to police people's gender. And, I don't think like most people don't realize how much of like gender is really more of a spectrum, anyway. There are, people who are born with, testes and grow breasts. There are people who naturally do that without any type of medication. Or, there are, cisgender women that grow beards. And now, like, and mustaches. Like, we all know auntie that has like who's extremely hairy. And like, I can't imagine being like a cisgender woman now and then going in the bathroom and someone is like attacking me because they think that I'm trans, just because like I naturally grow a mustache. I mean, that's crazy.
I don't want to interject because I'm glad that we're talking about this because I follow Tia's Madness, so I'm like always listening to like her perspective.
Oh, mama, you bringing mama in.
And I remember her bringing this up where she like had been talking over and over trying to get people to understand that like trans women issues also affect Black women. And so to the point, like I even think about somebody like a Sierra, who for many years people like Sierra, she's really a man. She got a penis. They need to check it, all this kind of stuff. Even though she's got pregnant, they still like attribute her features and how her body is, or some kind of way that I don't know. But they've questioned her womanhood, and there's other celebrities and other people like a Jess Hilarious who people have said, oh my God, she's really a man, or whatever. And it is crazy that like Black women would get attacked. But I also wonder, like, how do you feel about do you feel the support of Black women in coalition with Black trans women? And I know we're talking to trans. This is a conversation about transgender overall, but I'm kind of thinking about from the perspective of the community that I'm a part of. They're like, what is the energy around straight Black women and trans women? Do you feel like you are supported by them? Do you feel like y'all need a coalition more? What's going on?
Well, I think in terms of, because I kind of like have added a little bit of the kind of like just cis Black women in general, if we're going to be more precise around that. Okay. And I think that is ultimately complicated. I think it does depend a little bit on where people are just in general, and also kind of what you really do ascribe to. Because I was just having a conversation the other day with one of my sisters around, even Caster Semenya, where people looked at her differently, and they also did testosterone testing for her and tried to bar her from competing. Mm-hmm. Thinking about Iman Khalif, just the idea that you look a little bit different, which is kind of based in these very like anti-Black notions of what people are supposed to look like, of what a woman is supposed to look like, and what a Black woman is supposed to look like. Any kind of woman of color, honestly, but also specifically, there's so much attributed towards masculinizing Black women.
Yeah,
that affects that perception of gender too.
Yeah,
and I think in terms of like kind of like larger kind of coalition building, I think there's scores of sisters that are the cis sisters that like are doing the work. I think that they're there, and I think really ultimately like I think there needs to be a deeper kind of like a more rigorous kind of thinking through kind of gender itself throughout the community and kind of why we ascribe to certain things. I think that's kind of where we really are. And I think that's kind of just something writ large. Because I think the thing that I get tired of the most of at this point is the gender wars online. I'm tired of the gender wars. I'm tired of them. They annoy me to this point. Because it's based on roles that, for a lot of us, we don't have to have in order to live a good life. You don't have to have this kind of role. And thinking about like, oh, men need to do this all the time. Women need to do this all the time. And really trying to like have a little bit more freedom. You understand? Yeah. Like we can't have that freedom. I think about, and I've been looking around because I explained this to somebody else the other day about it's much easier when I have like a little thing that I can use to make it real, feel a little more real. Let me see. Because this is a concept that I use, and it may be written down in research somewhere.
Come on, Professor.
Come on, demonstration. We love a demonstration. Come on, let's teach the children.
So gender itself is very cultural and like time-based. That's what it is, because the old heads that be talking about folks now is like, oh well, these young boys doing da 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 da. They was in the little tank tops and little high heels and platform heels back in the 70s. So, but you wasn't challenging their manhood. But see, you do that now, it's a whole different ballgame. It's time based, it's place based, it's cultural, and because of something like that, I think it's more advantageous to think of gender as like a sphere in of itself. So, there's the whole spectrum that we look at where it kind of gets blue out here, like a little pink out here. And you know how you look at a map of the world, it's round, but you lay it out flat. If you take that little spectrum, blue it out until you get to the middle right here, let it kind of gray and kind of like do the same thing back over again where it kind of repeats, and do that on this side, do that on this line, latitude and longitude, do that there, wrap it around, and then you have the gender sphere. And that's kind of where everybody is. That's kind of the reality of what people experience. Because there's Western concepts of gender. There's, African, pre-colonial concepts of gender, especially. Mm-hmm. There's all sorts of understandings of genders, and like what that really means. So everybody on this planet, in this entire species, is somewhere around here. And for a lot of people, sometimes they're even a little bit deeper inside the sphere itself. And, kind of go from point to point to point. And, I think if we are able to like have that kind of like analysis on a deeper level as a community, thinking about like what freedoms we gained when we do kind of conceive of gender like that, or even conceive that I feel comfortable right here, that my friend over here is still my community member too, and like has just like a whole nother way of being. and like being able to see the beauty of that. Like I think there's so much that we can really get out when we do that. We have that kind of thought and analysis.
Yeah.
So I'm so sorry, but I'm gonna have to leave in a little bit and it's getting close to one of my 10 meetings.
baby.
Listen, we about to wrap this up. These conversations are really just to get the conversation going, you know. And then we have definitely got the conversation going. What I do want to ask as we kind of wrap this up, Maxine, is if you can just tell us what are your thoughts on Trans Awareness Week? Why is it important? What's going on? You know, why should we celebrate it? And you know, what do we do beyond this week?
I think that Trans Awareness Week is important because for so long, trans people were dying in silence. You know, I remember this. I heard that there's this one statistic from this older woman when she was like, for her, she's like in her 50s. She's like, for every like 1,000 girls from the 80s, you know, about 5 of them made it to her age. You know, and I think it's even especially worse when you talk about Black trans women.
Yeah.
So there's been this often quoted statistic that, you know, Black trans women, the average life expectancy is like 35. You know, because people end up dying for so many reasons. There's so many barriers just in terms of survival. And I think in terms of having Trans Awareness Week, that we need to be recognized in our whole humanity, and to not just be able to note our suffering and to note that, but to be seen and to be able to kind of gather together in spite of all the things that come at us, you know. Because I think in addition to Awareness Week, that because as we've been seeing for the past, you know, decade, ever since Laverne came out on time, you know, the heavy hand of visibility, you know, it's that double-edged sword. Our issues are more prominent now, and at the same time, as we are currently living through, you know, because we're more prominent, then we are now on the political board when we never wanted to be. You know, no one wanted to, you know, be debated about, you know, day in, day out. A lot of us just want to just live our lives. Most trans people just want to just be, you know, if they could just do some of the same things, just have their health care and all their needs met, they'll be absolutely fine. And so it's important to have this week to like be able to recognize that and to be able to see that like all the beautiful things that trans people give to this society. You know, I think one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard of, you know, is thinking about like, even if you like looked at the night sky and you saw 99% of all the stars, there's that 1% that you just never thought about and just never got to see. And I think in a lot of ways, we are that 1%. You don't get to understand the full breadth of humanity without understanding trans people. Because a lot of times for cis people, you're defining yourselves against us. You know, because you're defining yourselves within a context in which a situation like on this sphere that you understand yourself in. And because it is so foreign to you that someone else that might be born in a similar kind of fashion can feel so differently, that breaks so many barriers. And so if we want to like really honor that, we do need to have Trans Awareness Week. You know, we are still with that suffering with the double-edged sword of the visibility of it, but if we're going to progress forward, you know, we have to have it. And if you want to move on in terms of what we can do together, what we have to be doing together is trying to figure out direct ways of supporting trans people, either through direct assistance, through restructuring systems themselves, and then also combating the transphobia in our daily lives. And that can be on social media, that can be in your family, that could be at the Thanksgiving dinner table where like certain things are being said. You know, I think it's also, you know, how we treat our children too. Because, you know, I think understanding that children are this political pawn in so many instances and have been even before, you know, we start talking about trans rights. But thinking about, you know, the freedom that we can really allow our young people when we allow them to process gender and process themselves in a way that is truly directed by them. Like being able to like live that way, like that unlocks so many doors for a young person to be able to like confidently and assuredly say who they are does so much. And I think that's not just for trans kids. That's for everybody, for every child, to give them that opportunity and to give them that right. Because if we really do believe that there's a right to being able to like just live on our own terms, that's a part of that. And so like undoing that transphobia, going out there, being a part of any of all the protests, doing all the things on social media, and also giving your time and money towards organizations, that is what we really need to be doing.
Baby, listen.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Look,
Maxine, first of all, you are a star. You are a powerful voice. Every time I get an opportunity to listen to you speak, I learn. My mind is expanded, and I just feel like I'm now. I want to figure out what more can I do. And so, um, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. And I know we'll continue to have these conversations, and you know, teach the people and help the people and all that kind of stuff. But happy Transgender Awareness Week, okay? We love our trans community, and anything, Mason, that we can do to help you, just let us know, okay?
Will do. Thank you for having me.
Period.
yeah.
Go
Transationnational.org.
to the website. You hit up the Venmo. Donate.
Yes, please donate, please support, and there's so many good things. Thank you, Maxine, for being here. One of the things that, I am, passionate about, I don't think, I tell other people about like the one thing about us, like uplifting and supporting trans people, supporting queer people, it gives all of us the space and the opportunity to really be more of ourselves and to
Mhm.
be more free. If we can make a space and uplift the trans black woman, then all of us are doing better. So we thank you, Maxine. We appreciate you and much love, baby. We're here for you and all of our yes. All right. So much love, so much love. Thank you all for tuning in.
We'll see you
And
next Monday.
we'll see you next Monday.
All right, bye.
All right,
Bye.
bye.